Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Life can get a little hectic. I know you know what I'm talking about. But you know what I do? I try to find some time to spend, well, in my happy place, which happens to be the garden. Spending a little time connecting with nature can make a big difference. You know, you don't have to have a crazy life to really enjoy the sensory experience and the tranquility that a garden can bring. The aroma of flowers, seeing that beautiful blue sky, the taste of fresh produce right off the vine, the sound of bees buzzing at their work, or your favorite songbird. All of these and more come together to make a garden a truly an amazing place to be. So we have to ask ourselves, do these types of experiences help us with serious diseases like Alzheimer's? Well, we checked in with doctors, therapists, and patients to find out.
Whoa, look at them. They are gorgeous.
Sue, what do you think of the flavor of these?
Very good. Just enough tart, but the sweet's still there.
Love blueberries.
Me too.
You spent your life working on Alzheimer's and dementia. Let's talk about nutrition and its impact and how we can maybe avoid the onset of these tragic diseases.
You know, there's not a direct correlation, as far as we know, between what you eat and whether or not you would have Alzheimer's. But there is a correlation between if you are out of shape and obese. Because then you set yourself up for other diseases that are true risk factors for the development of Alzheimer's disease. For example, like type 2 diabetes.
So we have this whole generation of boomers retiring now, Sue. Is it too late for them to get started exercising or eating right?
No, it's not too late. But because we don't want them to retire into Alzheimer's disease.
No,
and that's a
don't.
terrible thing. Just saw on a clip yesterday, this guy, he says, my great-grandfather lived to 118, but he said, I don't even think I'm going to make retirement. And of course, he already is starting in having some cognitive decline. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, really?
But one of the...
Because this would be about lifestyle, so he's got the genetics.
Yes.
He has the genetics of his grandfather.
Yes, exactly.
But it's the way in which he has lived his life.
Exactly.
Well, he's living in a world where, I mean, in our office, our home, wherever we happen to go, all these chemicals are around us. It's a very different world than his grandfather lived in, when it was, one could argue, much more natural.
Well, we have to make plans on getting outside, but most people are just living inside an office building.
Yeah, or we're moving there to their car, and then from their car to their home.
And there's already been a study done to show that even people with cognitive decline, if they get in an exercise group and start exercising, in those people, they actually can do some better.
Right.
And
so it's not only just getting your heart rate up, but also socializing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the really key things about people that already have cognitive decline, and all of us ought to take a lesson from it, is we should keep our social networks up and pay attention.
That is very good advice.
Yeah, right. And pay attention to family and friends, even the family that you don't agree with. You know, hug them first, argue later.
We'll put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, right,
That's
exactly.
very good. So any tips on like the kinds of vegetables you grow? I grow these little forte carrots. Well, they're not so little, but aren't they beautiful?
They are, they're gorgeous. And it's all about the colored vegetables. The darker, the better in the vegetables, and the darker, the better in the fruits. But that doesn't mean any of them are bad. They're all really
right.
good.
Yeah, don't push any of them off the plate.
No, do
just
not.
Because their color isn't quite right.
And also, like growing up, that was what my mom always said, just make the plate colorful, it's fine.
And Sue, what about aroma? I keep smelling this marvelous rosemary we have in here.
Yes, it's great. And of course, we know, just intrinsically, we know about aromas. They make us feel good. And of course, it could be that that's just the happiness thing, but the happiness thing is really important, especially in a person who has cognitive decline. They know they know they're not okay. And any little chance for happiness, of course, we want to give them.
Gives them a little bump up.
But also, then they get more alert. And alert is part of not being cognitively depressed.
Declining,
Yeah.
yes, very good.
Exactly.
Sue, thank you for spending time out here in this organic vegetable garden with me,
This
talking
is
about
so
ways
great.
to improve our lives. It's always a joy to have you here.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun, and I loved it, and loved getting to taste all the goodies as
You're
we came
taking
through
some
the
home
garden.
with you, don't worry.
I'll be looking forward to it.
Rooftop gardens can serve as an oasis in an urban setting. Our next guests are part of a team who are dedicated to creating a haven, a retreat for those who are under a lot of stress.
I'm Chanda Chacon. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Arkansas Children's here in Little Rock. The outdoor garden area at Arkansas Children's is probably one of the areas I'm most proud of.
You know, it's a sense of serenity up here. You have parents that are coming here. Sometimes they're going through a lot with their own children. And sometimes in the morning when we come up here and check things out, make sure things are okay, you'll see parents sitting out here in the cool of the morning, just having some quiet time to themselves. And that makes you feel good.
Where we're standing now is actually in an outdoor playground and garden that both our patients and families use with their siblings, and our staff uses as well to really just get away and help really try to normalize a really abnormal experience for families.
Being able to pull families out of their room, whether it's from this south wing area or from other parts of the hospital, to an environment like this is so uplifting, and to bring their children in a wagon, in strollers, in wheelchairs to participate in the activities we have out here can really help the healing process.
It actually reduces pain, even if you're in an environment where you can just see a garden. You don't even have to be out in it, but you can just see green space, you can see trees, having meandering pathways so that everything isn't really square and boxy, and that really focusing on helping little kids too be creative so they can help really feel like it's a normal experience, because you can imagine being in a hospital for a child, it's probably the most abnormal experience they're going to have. And so what we have is a lot of our inpatient rooms open up onto this space and open up into our atrium that has plants and greenery in there to really help families and patients who maybe they're too sick to be around plants. We really want them to still get that feel of calm and safety. We've created some spaces where staff can get away as well. We really want our staff here to be at their best, and to be able to do that, we need to provide spaces where they can relax too and step away when they're on a break or before or after their shift. In this really urban environment that we all tend to work in that has a lot of concrete, having some green space and having people be able to see trees and flowers helps reduce stress. It lowers anxiety for our patients and families. It can help reduce pain, lower blood pressure. We see those benefits not only with our patients, but also with our employees and with our families. We're really committed at Arkansas Children's to helping change design as we go forward, both in our interior spaces as well as our exterior spaces.
I don't know about you, but I love aromatic herbs. And one of my favorites, well, it's rosemary. Rosemary, well, I plant a lot of it. You can see hedges of it. I plant it everywhere. I just like the fragrance, and I like the fact that it's so good in cooking, and some believe that it can actually boost your cognitive abilities. You can enhance your memory. It stimulates the brain in a way that other herbs can't. Since the early days of medicine, herbs such as rosemary, sage, and even mint have been found to be beneficial for memory and mental acuity. But it's not just herbs that provide health benefits to the body and mind. There are also several other foods that you can grow in your garden that have brain-boosting vitamins and nutrients, like, well, blueberries, for instance. Now just take a look at these. Now they're not quite ripe yet, although I wish they were. Just remember, if you grow blueberries, you need to remember that you have to have 2 different varieties at least for cross-pollination to get a fruit set like this. But blueberries, well, they're loaded with antioxidants and plenty of vitamin C. Let's go underground now and talk about one of my favorite root vegetables. Beets, well, they're dense in nutrients, including betaine, potassium, magnesium, folate, and vitamin C. And then there are those leafy greens, some of my favorites. Just look at this gorgeous red romaine. And then, of course, our friend the kale. Could add collards to the list and also chard. These plants are rich in vitamin K, folate, lutein, as well as beta-carotene. There's several reasons why I love growing these kinds of plants. Hey, they make your garden look great, and they make you look great when you eat them. And then, of course, there's broccoli. Everybody knows that broccoli is good for you, and when you grow it organically, you can eat it straight out of the garden like this. Man, this is good. And if you know anything about Chinese medicine, you probably recognize this tree. It's Ginkgo biloba, and it's been used for millennia by the Chinese as a memory booster. I just love this tree because in the fall, it turns lemon yellow. Exquisite. Now, if you consider ginkgo as an herbal supplement, you need to know that it's been studied extensively with mixed results. While it's been proven to increase blood circulation and is high in antioxidants, the jury remains split on whether it substantially enhances mental performance and memory. Of course, where there is conclusive evidence is eating lots of fresh vegetables and fruits. They're not only good for your mind, but they're good for your body. Like Mom always said, remember, eat your vegetables. Who doesn't love to receive a beautiful bouquet, particularly when it's really fragrant? I want to give you an idea of thinking outside the box with regard to bouquets by integrating lots of beautiful herbs. We're going to start by taking a piece of brown craft paper. What I'm doing here is I'm just going to cut this into a square. The size of this will depend on the size of bouquet you want to create. But I'm just taking about a 14-inch square piece of paper. And with that, I'm going to do a bouquet of herbs that I just gathered out of the garden. Taking my spiky rosemary, which is the tallest, and I'm putting it toward the back of this bouquet. And then I'm going to add some of this beautiful gray-colored sage. It's so aromatic, and I love the contrast. See, texture is so important, just as important as color, in my opinion. And then what we might do is add some of this ferny, soft, ethereal-looking dill. So as I create the bouquet, I just hold it tightly. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut this off. They're all the same length. And then I'm going to take just a little bit of this floral tape and I'm going to tie the bundle together. And then to make the bouquet presentable, what I'm going to do is take a sandwich bag and a little bit of paper towel that I'm going to moisten, some water. I'm going to wrap the bottom stems of this, drop it in the sandwich bag like this. We'll have a little extra plastic with the sandwich bag, and so I'll just pull that around. And I'm going to take a piece of this jute, tie this off securely. Now with the moisture in here, the bouquet will last much longer. Okay, now let's talk about the presentation. I'm going to take the bouquet and lay it roughly the center point of this diagonal 14-inch square. I'm going to fold off the corners like this, just to give it a nicer little presentation edge. I'm going to fold it over like this and take the bottom up, pull the left side over and around like that. So you can see we have a craft paper cone for it, and now it's just a matter of tying it off with another piece of this jute twine. Now, to make it even more special, you can add your favorite flowers to this bouquet. Like white tulips are a classic. They blend beautifully with the sage, the dill, the rosemary, and the thyme. And there you have it, a beautiful and fragrant bouquet, something that's a little out of the ordinary.
These are beeswax pellets. Beeswax is the only fuel that emits negative ions into the air, eliminating dust and pollen in the process. Using these little guys and a few other easy to find items, I'm going to show you how to make a quick and easy beeswax candle. Put some glue into the bottom of the mason jar. Then we're going to take an anchor and press it in. And just hold it for a few seconds so that it really stays. Okay, now we're gonna take our beeswax pellets and we're gonna put it in carefully. Now you want the beeswax to go at least an inch above where you want the wax to ultimately settle, because as it heats up, it's going to fill in all of those air pockets. Now the great thing about this is you can use any size mason jar. So you can do little ones, you can do large ones, you can get creative and have all different sizes. And they make a great gift. All right, pack that in nicely. Now we're gonna trim our wick. So just take a scissor and give it a good 1.5 inches from the top. You can always trim it more later. Now we're gonna stick this in the oven at a low temperature, about 200 degrees, and we're gonna let all of that wax melt. Once they're cooled, the candles are ready to use.
Fragrance is one of the most important aspects of a garden, in my opinion. When I'm designing a garden, I always try to include something that's going to give off a delicious aroma. It's hard to beat old-fashioned roses. Let me introduce you to Felicia. She's from 1928 and a beautiful reblooming rose. And here we are in the depths of summer, and she's still throwing off these gorgeous sort of pinkish apricot blooms. I wish you could smell them. Felicia is just one of many, many varieties of roses out there that have an amazing aroma. Some of the others we grow here include Sarah Van Fleet and an old one called Lamarck that goes back to the 1840s. What's wonderful about these is they're remontant, meaning they bloom again and again after that first bloom in the spring. When you're placing fragrant plants in the garden, think about where you spend time, in and out of a door or a patio, where you sit in the morning to have a cup of coffee or tea. That's where you're going to really enjoy the fragrance of these plants. And of course, fragrance just doesn't stop with roses. Think about gardenias, jasmine, magnolia, all have wonderful redolence. And then the herbs, of course. You can't beat lavender, and then there's rosemary. So when you're thinking about your garden, make sure you include fragrance. Nothing like stimulating all the senses. I consider the Gladiolus really a paintbrush in the garden. When grouped together like this, they can make quite an impact. It's an old-fashioned flower. It's been around a long time. In fact, there's over 260 species of wild gladiolas around the world. But there's probably a lot more different varieties because hybridizers have had a lot of fun with gladiolas over the last century. Any color you want, you can find it in a gladiola, I'm here to tell you. Some of them are even almost black, but I love this bright red. I like to cut them because they're tall and statuesque. They're also called the sword lily, which is a common name for them. I also like to take the blooms that are spent off before I use them in an arrangement. And then sometimes I'll take these blooms that are in perfectly beautiful shape, like this, and float them in a bowl, or place them right at the top of a plate if you're having a dinner party. It's a beautiful little accent for the table. Gladiolas are easy to grow. They grow from corms. They'll actually come back year after year. These have been here for the last 4 years. And I just love having a little surprise each summer. And I try to plant gladiolas about every 2 weeks so I have a constant supply of them. It's one of the easiest bulbs you can grow. And what a glorious flower to have around throughout the summer. Boy, you are beautiful. And look at you. Well, I think it's safe to say that the garden provides therapeutic value beyond what we can measure. I know for me, even on the worst day in the garden, I feel great. There's just something about being out here and connected to nature that can make such a difference. I hope today's show's been helpful and enlightening and encouraging to you. Until next time, I'm Alan Smith.